4-year-old boy's dream vision of the occupation. In 1979, I can't keep silent anymore. While on vacation with his family in Lausanne, Switzerland in 1979, Viktor Klimenko, who was not yet a believer at the time, witnessed a strange event. The children had already been put to bed. Suddenly, Klimenko hears his 4.5-year-old son Arber shouting in the next room, "The Finns and the Russians are attacking Norway!" Klimenko hurried to see what was causing the fuss. The boy, who seemed to be half asleep, began to describe a strange dream he had had. For some reason, Klimenko wrote everything down and described the strange conversation. 9.6 1979 at 22:15 Lausanne, Switzerland. Arber had a dream.
The Finns and Russians attack Norway. Who attacked Norway? Finns and me. There were high walls and towers on the wall, and you can't climb there. I had the impression that he was talking about northern Norway. And then the Norwegians fought against the Norwegians. How so aren't the Russians and Finns? Not when they had like Russians on the other side. And they fought terribly with each other. Finns are tough guys. There were only 20 of them and 10,000,000 Norwegians. There were a lot of them, but the Finns are tougher. The Swedes cowered in between. We beat them all to pieces, and God helped us. Where was God? It was on top of a cloud, and it came down from there and helped us because it was so kind. And then everyone was dead. Everyone. Children and everyone. Didn't Finland fight against Russia? No, when the Russians came here to fight against the Norwegians. All countries that are on the Russian border are evil. Now I want to watch more sleep.
I went away and let him fall asleep. I thought I'd come back in a moment to ask more. After a while, I woke him up. He had barely even fallen asleep. It felt as if he was in a semi-slumber and someone was talking through his mouth. Had something new happened?
Now we are attacking the Russian ramparts because they are so disgusting. It's okay, Daddy, even though you're Russian. And I don't have the energy to talk about this war anymore. And I don't want to have this stupid dream. I want to go to sleep now. Good night, Daddy, honey.
I typed the prophecy out of my wrinkled notes on 10 Corinthians 10, June 1980, which is almost exactly a year later when I heard it. Klimenko thought it was very strange that a boy who was just under 5 years old, who knew neither geography nor world politics, could describe such events so realistically. Klimenko spoke fervently of his son's vision at spiritual events. In 1985, he published the prophecy for the first time in the book, I Can No Longer Be Silent. The reception was not very enthusiastic, contrary to what Klimenko expected. Klimenko felt that he was being subjected to criticism that he felt was more or less unrighteous. And when his own dogs bit him, the Cossack defended himself even more fiercely. He firmly believed that he had been given the task of conveying a warning to the Finnish people. There was very little time. Despite the headwinds, he stood behind the prophecy, seal. Just when the situation was thought to have calmed down, Klimenko republished his son's message. She was inspired by the miraculous sight of 74-year-old Simo Honkanen. Honkanen, who knew nothing about Klimenko's family, was 9. June 1979, the same day that the Klimenkos were on holiday in Lausanne, experienced a strange revelation. He had been taken to follow an unknown family's holiday trip to Lausanne, Switzerland. Then I heard the word Lausanne quite clearly. The word Lausanne was said quite clearly to me, Honkanen described. In addition, he was able to tell details about the stages of the journey, the itinerary, and the events that Klimenko had not even published in 1985 in his book I Can No Longer Be Silent. In the vision, Honkanen followed the family all the way to their destination. He described how, in a dimly lit room, a little boy suddenly got up in his bed and began prophesying about an invasion of Norway. Dad squatted next to me and wrote everything down. In his vision, Honkanen even saw the boy's name in golden letters, Arber. Miraculously, the boy spoke. Oh, when even a Norwegian was like a Russian, dresses in Russian clothes. And then the Swedes squat and crouch there on the border of their country, on their own side, on the steps of the guns. Such a sight is miraculous from a child's mouth. Saima Honkanen said on a cassette tape in which she had recorded her vision experience soon after it happened. Later, he gave the cassette tape to Klimenko. Viktor Klimenko felt that his son's vision had been sealed. Time was running out. The vision had to be published once more, accompanied by a new supernatural confirmation from Honkanen. It happened in 1992 in a booklet called Sinetti. I was present at the publication of the booklet. The Cossack himself believed in his cause. Many others don't. In the new atmosphere after the collapse of the Soviet Union in Russia, the attitude towards intimidation was even more reserved. So much so that in less than 10 years the prophecy was again either silenced to death or simply forgotten. World politics went in a completely different direction. But then the secret archives of the Eastern Bloc began to open. Secret war. More light on NATO's and Russia's plans. The military archives in Prague and the archives of the GDR People's Army were finally opened to supporters. Along with these and some other memorandums, information has come to light that gives reason to re-evaluate the prophecy of Klimenko's son. The archives have revealed the behind-the-scenes activities of the East and West in the 70s and even in the 80s with regard to the North. In Finland, the information was published for the first time in the documentary Secret Sota, Mon 26/3/2001 at 20 Nowhere by Olli Ainola, the political journalist of YLE's MOT program. We are not just relying on memories, as the verbatim script of the program was available for a long time on the YLE website, where I saved it for myself. In the following, I will summarize the most essential entities from the point of view of Klimenko's son's vision. The highlights are my own. Ainola first explained how, as a sign of his willingness to defend the strategic areas of northern Norway against an imaginary Soviet attack, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, began large-scale military exercises in the north in September 1972. It was rehearsing for the Third World War, which, according to an imaginary situation, had begun when the Soviet Union attacked northern Norway from Finland. While NATO was finalizing in its headquarters the details of an exercise called Strong Express, 3 high-ranking Finnish officers were invited to a Soviet diplomatic residence in Turku, Helsinki. After the evening gathering ended, the commander of the defense forces, General K.O. Leinonen, and the chief of the general staff, Lieutenant General Lauri Sutela, left the residence, but the hosts asked Major General Paavo Juntila to stay. They wanted to make a certain proposal. The dining room had been tidied up and a map of Finland was spread on the table. Ainola's documentary describes plainly how on the map a kind of new borderline had been drawn, roughly along the Ulu-Kajani line. General Paavo Juntila was shocked when he heard the proposal, but managed to conceal his shock. The whole proposal sounded like a declaration of war. The Soviet Union would take care of the area north of the line, with the southernmost part left to the Finnish army. On TV, the narration was accompanied by a fluttering red flag covering northern Finland, the entire province of Lapland. According to the plan, Soviet military equipment and troops would be permanently brought to northern Finland. Juntila, Sutela, and Leinonen submitted the proposal for President Urho Kekkonen to decide, and he ordered the talks to begin. The top-secret consultations began in April 1972. I picked up a few more short quotes from the MOT manuscript that can be directly linked to the prophecy vision of Klimenko's son Abba. The script says, "The Soviet Union reveals its intentions. It does not intend to sit idly by and wait for a NATO strike, but wants to keep the initiative in its hands. It requires an attack, surprise attack." Until the end of the 1980s, the war plans of the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact were based on a large-scale strategic offensive. Juntila's memorandum reveals the Soviet Union's goal in all its nakedness. The Soviet Union tried to ensure that the Finns would guarantee it unhindered passage or even help it when it attacked Norway. The main goal of Soviet military diplomacy was to gain a firm foothold for the Soviet army in northern Finland. It was interested in seizing the defense of Lapland for itself in one way or another, in which case it would have brought troops and its military equipment there. It was not a test balloon, but a serious endeavor. which it returned to later when it was first brought up at the turn of the year 71 to 72. These thoughts really had nothing to do with the YYA treaty and defense. The Soviet Union was prepared to launch a surprise attack on northern Norway from Finland. The Finns and Russians are attacking Norway, prophesied a 4.5-year-old child who knew nothing at all about world politics behind the scenes. Documents that were previously considered secret have now revealed that the Soviet Union had indeed prepared a surprise attack on northern Norway and expected the Finns to help in this attack.